Admiral Zeftar of the Hegemony Third Fleet had conquered 17 star systems in his illustrious career. The crystalline being's bioluminescent patterns flickered with confidence as he reviewed the intelligence reports on humanity's newest colony world, Kepler 442b. Another primitive species to subjugate, another easy victory to add to his record. The galactic hegemony had been expanding for 3 millennia, absorbing lesser civilizations with methodical efficiency. Humans, with their short lifespans and fragile biology, seemed like particularly easy prey. Their military technology appeared, centuries behind hegemony standards, their ships crude fusion-powered vessels that barely qualified as interstellar craft. "Admiral," reported his tactical officer, a 6-armed Nexari whose voice buzzed through the bridge's translation matrix. "Human forces are requesting a diplomatic meeting before hostilities commence." Zeftar's patterns shifted to amused cyan. "How quaint. Very well, we shall hear their surrender terms." The human delegation arrived aboard a modest shuttle that looked like it had been assembled in someone's garage. 3 representatives stepped onto the flagship's pristine deck. A middle-aged woman in a simple blue uniform, an elderly man with kind eyes, and a younger officer whose calm demeanor struck Zeftar as oddly inappropriate for someone facing obliteration. "I am Captain Sarah Chen of the Earth Colonial Defense Force," the woman announced. "We appreciate your willingness to speak before any unnecessary violence occurs." Unnecessary? Zeftar's translator couldn't quite capture his species' equivalent of laughter. "You face the might of 40 dreadnoughts and 300 support vessels. Surrender now, and your people will be granted work assignments in the Outer Rim territories." The elderly human, introduced as Dr. Marcus Webb, stepped forward with what appeared to be a simple tablet. "Admiral, before you proceed, we'd like to share something with you. A gift of knowledge, if you will." "Knowledge?" The Nexari tactical officer's mandibles clicked dismissively. What could a species that hasn't even mastered gravitic manipulation possibly teach us? Dr. Webb's eyes twinkled. "We call them the Geneva Conventions. Along with the Hague Conventions, the Laws of Armed Conflict, and our most recent addition, the Kepler Accords. They represent humanity's attempts to civilize warfare." He activated the tablet, projecting a holographic document into the air. Admiral Zeftar's bioluminescent patterns shifted to puzzled purple as he began reading. "Parties to a conflict shall at all times distinguish between the civilian population and combatants," he read aloud. "Attacks shall be limited strictly to military objectives." Captain Chen nodded. "Article 48 of Additional Protocol I. We take it very seriously." The young officer, Lieutenant Commander James Rodriguez, stepped forward. "We've also included our field manuals on proportionality in warfare, protection of cultural sites, treatment of prisoners, and medical neutrality. We thought you might find them educational." Admiral Zeftar continued reading, his patterns cycling through increasingly vibrant hues of confusion and alarm. "The right of belligerents to adopt means of injuring the enemy is not unlimited. It is especially forbidden to employ arms calculated to cause unnecessary suffering." "You're telling me," the Admiral said slowly, "that you have laws governing how you conduct war?" "Oh yes," Dr. Webb replied cheerfully. "Quite extensive ones. We've been refining them for centuries. Started with the Lieber Code during our American Civil War, really got serious after our World Wars." "World Wars?" The Nexari officer leaned forward, antenna twitching. Lieutenant Commander Rodriguez's expression remained perfectly neutral. "Conflicts involving our entire planet. We had 2 of them within 30 years, learned quite a bit about warfare during that period." Admiral Zeftar's patterns had shifted to a distinctly nervous yellow. "You fought wars that consumed your entire world, and survived?" "Multiple times," Captain Chen confirmed. "But that's not the interesting part. The interesting part is that we created these laws to restrain ourselves, to make war more humane." "Humane?" The Admiral's translator struggled with the concept. "Yes," Dr. Webb said, adjusting his glasses. "You see, Admiral, These aren't suggestions. They're binding. Legal frameworks that we follow even when fighting for our very survival. We have courts, tribunals, enforcement mechanisms. The bridge fell silent except for the ambient hum of the ship's systems. Admiral Zeftar read further, his bioluminescent patterns now cycling through rapid combinations of colors that his crew had never seen before. You're saying you deliberately handicap yourselves during combat? We prefer to think of it as maintaining our humanity while engaged in the most inhumane of activities, Captain Chen replied. For instance, we don't target civilian populations even when it would be tactically advantageous. You don't target, but that's fundamental strategy. Lieutenant Commander Rodriguez spoke for the first time in several minutes. We also provide medical aid to enemy wounded, protect cultural and religious sites, ensure proper treatment of prisoners, and maintain strict protocols about proportional response. Admiral Zeftar's chief science officer, a tall, mantis-like being, had been quietly analyzing the human documents. "Admiral," she whispered, her voice carrying an unmistakable tremor, "if they fight with these restrictions and still won their planetary conflicts, what would they be capable of without them?" The question hung in the air like a toxic cloud. Admiral Zeftar found himself studying the three humans with new eyes. Captain Chen's calm confidence, Dr. Webb's grandfatherly demeanor, Lieutenant Commander Rodriguez's almost casual bearing, none of it suggested a species that should be taken lightly. "These world wars you mentioned," the Admiral said carefully, "how many casualties?" "Combined, approximately 100 million dead," Dr. Webb replied matter-of-factly. "And that was when we were holding back." The Admiral's patterns went completely dark for several seconds, a reaction his crew had never witnessed. When the lights returned, they pulsed in the deep red of profound unease. "Holding back?" Captain Chen leaned forward slightly. "Admiral, we've shared these documents because we believe in giving our opponents every opportunity to understand what they're facing. We hope you'll choose wisdom over warfare." "But if you choose warfare," Lieutenant Commander Rodriguez added, quietly, "please understand that these laws only apply to conflicts between civilized parties who acknowledge them." The implications crashed over Admiral Zeftar like a tidal wave. A species that could fight planet-consuming wars while deliberately restraining themselves, that had codified mercy into their military doctrine, that considered unrestricted warfare to be a failure of civilization itself. "What happens if we don't acknowledge your laws?" he asked, though he wasn't entirely sure he wanted to know the answer. Dr. Webb's kind eyes didn't change, but something shifted in the temperature of the bridge. "Then you wouldn't be protected by them either, would you?" Admiral Zeftar looked at his tactical displays, at his 40 dreadnoughts and 300 support vessels, at the modest human colony below, and the handful of primitive ships defending it. For the first time in his career, he found himself calculating not whether he could win, but whether victory would be worth surviving. 20 minutes later, Admiral Zeftar submitted his resignation to Hegemony Command and announced his immediate retirement to a small farm on Rigel 7. His entire fleet withdrew without firing a shot. The humans, for their part, sent a care package to his retirement address. It contained several bottles of wine, some Earth literature, and a handwritten note from Dr. Webb wishing him well in his new peaceful life. The package also included a complete copy of human military history. Admiral Zeftar never opened it,